Welcome to Central Sports. I'm Oni Osman and this is Justin Morris. We're recapping on how the games went for the NFL season in week 2. So far, our first series of games is the Bears versus the Packers. And then in that game, the Packers won as they forced 7 sacks, 4 interceptions, and Jay Cutler lost it and yells at linemen. And then the score was 10-23. The Bears stars were Jay Cutler. He threw 11 for 27 for 126 yards and 1 touchdown. And it wasn't very good for completion, but he also had trouble getting the ball away. Michael Bush had 14 carries, 54 yards, and no touchdowns. And then Matt Forte got 4 receptions and 49 yards. The Bears had a total of 168 total yards, and the Packers had 321 and dominated. The Packers only had 2 turnovers, and then their stars were Aaron Rodgers, their quarterback, 22 for 32, 219 yards with 1 touchdown. Cedric Benson, their running back, who had 20 carries for 81 yards and 1 touchdown. And then Jordy Nelson, who had 6 receptions for 84 yards and no touchdowns.
The next game in week 2 was the Ravens and the Eagles, in which the Eagles narrowly beat the Ravens 24-23. The key stars for that game for the Eagles were Michael Vick in that game. He passed for 23 for 32 for 371 yards and 1 touchdown. The key receivers for the Eagles in this game were Brent Selleck, as he caught 8 passes for 157 yards, and Deshaun Jackson, he caught 7 passes for 114 yards. And Deshaun McCoy also had a great game running the ball, as on 25 carries, he rushed for 81 yards. And on the Ravens side, Joe Flacco had 22 completions for 232 yards and 1 touchdown. And Vontae Lee scored 1 touchdown for the Ravens as they lost 23.
Alright, so then next is the Broncos versus the Falcons, in which the Falcons won. The final score was 27-21, and then the Falcons forced 3 interceptions and 1 fumble for the Broncos. And the Broncos did it all early and had an early breakdown, but then they proved to nearly be, and it seemed to nearly be impossible to rebound from, but they almost came close to winning. And the Broncos had a total of 336 yards, while the Falcons had 275 yards. The star players for the Broncos were Peyton Manning, who had 24-37 completion rate for 241 yards and a touchdown, and he was the one that threw the 3 interceptions early. Willis McGahee ran 22 carries for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Demaryius Thomas had 8 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. The Falcons stars were Matt Ryan, who threw 24 for 36 for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. Michael Turner, who had 17 carries for 42 yards and 1 touchdown. And Roddy White, who had 8 receptions for 102 yards and a touchdown.
The next game in week 2 was the Jets and the Steelers. The Steelers beat the Jets 27-10. And the stars of this game for the Steelers were Ben Roethlisberger, who completed 24 passes for 275 yards. Isaac Redman had a great game running the ball as he scored a touchdown on 25 yards. And the key receivers in that game for the Steelers were Mike Wallace with 5 receptions and 74 yards, also caught a touchdown pass. And there was one key player for the Jets in that game, which was Mark Sanchez, as he had 10 completions out of 27, 438 yards and 1 touchdown to Santonio Holmes, as the Steelers' defense proved that they could stop the Jets' offense and had a great game.
And then finally, our last game was the 49ers versus the Lions, and the 49ers had a great win over the Lions, which was 27-19. The 49ers stars were Alex Smith, who threw 20 for 31 for 226 yards and 2 touchdowns. Frank Gore ran for a touchdown with 17 carries and 89 yards. And Vernon Davis got 5 receptions for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. For Detroit, Matthew Stafford threw 19 for 32 for 230 yards and 1 touchdown. Kevin Smith ran for 16 carries and 53 yards. And Calvin Johnson got 8 receptions for 94 yards. Obviously, the 49ers won, and it was a great start for them. So thank you for watching us, and we'll see you later.